Nigeria and its oil wealth. Well, that is a complicated story. The West African nation is the continent's biggest oil producer, and it ranks 11th in global terms. But it has had a hard time attracting foreign investment, prompting President Muhammadu Buhari to free Nigeria's state-owned oil firm from state control earlier this month. Now, oil accounts for 90% of Nigeria's exports, but it's had problems exploiting that wealth of crude, producing well under its daily OPEC quota. Now, it is estimated that about 1/10 of the oil pumped ends up stolen. In the first quarter of 2022, that was crude worth $1 billion. And where it ends up is a dirty business. Illegal refineries mark Nigeria's oil-rich Niger Delta. Dirty and dangerous, back in April, this refinery exploded, killing more than 100 people. Now, the government is cracking down on these illegal refineries, but when DW correspondent Flourish Chukwurah visited the Niger Delta, she found that the problem is far from over.
This is what happens when Nigerian security forces find an illegal oil refinery. DW obtained rarely seen footage taken by officers as they set fire to one of the many refineries scattered through the Niger Delta. They've stepped up raids since the accident in April, which killed more than 100 people. But they say it's a never-ending task.
Sometimes when we try and destroy most of these illegal refineries that you see in the creeks, they will still go back to fix it back. We will still go back to destroy it. We've been mandated by the law to clamp down on those that are perpetrating on these evil acts. So it's actually a crime to the nation, a crime to the environment, a crime to the community.
Some blame a spike in terminal illness in the region on leaks and accidents at illegal refineries.
Just behind me, this is caused by oil spills, and once the crude gets into the water body, it is the resultant position. Fishes dies. Every living organism in the water body dies. Meaning our grandchildren, the great-great-grandchildren unborn are coming to inherit an environment that's incarcerated, that's completely destroyed.
And yet, men like this feel they have little other option. He runs a camp in the creeks where they refine stolen crude oil almost every night. Camps like his are called Popo Fire.
We cannot just stay and just be surviving. We really want to live. Yes, because this business pays, it pays us, the income is good. We're not talking of just the owners of the product, we're talking of even the workers, they get good pay. So the risk sometimes we know, so we try to minimize it too.
He knows he's risking his life. He could die in an accident, or if caught and convicted, spend the rest of his life in jail. But he says there's no other way to earn a living for his family. Kerosene is the most common product from illegal refineries, and business is booming. Legally refined kerosene is not available in this region. Everyone buys from Popo Fire.
This is what the locally refined kerosene looks like. Now, this bottle costs just 200 naira, which is less than $1. Many people here depend heavily on kerosene for cooking. They don't use cooking gas, and so it's readily available all around town.
The Bayelsa region could be turned into an oil-producing and refining hub, say activists. They have been calling for the government to legalize the refineries and give the men operating them proper training. There are no legal refineries working in Nigeria. Maurice Alagwa has been campaigning for such policies, but says there are many factors maintaining the status quo.
So there is high-level corruption. The oil companies are undervaluing the export volume and then paying some people for that. The security agencies at the export terminal are also collecting their own, and then even the NNPC officials. So What they are doing in the creeks, the boys are doing in the creeks is just a tip in the iceberg. The big tips are the export terminal.
This region of the Niger Delta currently offers its people few work options. Until Nigeria starts refining its own oil, the country will continue to lose billions of dollars to oil thefts, and locals here will continue to earn what they can, no matter how dangerous.
And for more on this story, we've invited Chief Nengi James onto the program. He is an activist and community leader. He joins us from the Niger Delta. Welcome to DW News Africa, Chief. So we've just seen in our report how dangerous illegal oil refineries are, how harmful they are to the environment. How is it, then, that there are so many of them seemingly operating in broad daylight in the Niger Delta?
Yes, actually, you call it illegal refineries. We call it artisan refineries. There is nothing illegal there because the entire process is on organized crime. Without the government and the military officials, this illegal refinery you talk about would have stopped because it has to do with environmental hazard, health hazard, and very, very dangerous situation. Is doing well. It's one of the lucrative business because people are pushed to the wall and there is abject poverty in the land and there is no job for the youth. So what is now survival of the fittest? So even the government officials who ought to have stopped it or minimized it or eradicate it are even enjoying it more. So they don't even want it to stop.
I want to move our conversation a little bit forward, if you would allow me to, because people associate oil with wealth. And from your experience, does oil make communities richer or poorer?
Very poorer, very, very poorer, and very poorer. The oil should have been a blessing to us, but the oil is now a blood oil. It's bleeding. It's giving us disease. Health hazard, environmental hazard, and diseases of kind. As I'm talking to you, the death rate in our area is between 30 and 40 years. The illegal business we are talking about is just 1/4 of what they are stealing. The bigger business is being done by the IOCs and the big people at offshore. They are loading the crude oil. The one the boys are cooking is not compared to the number of the ships they are loading.
So, Chief James, how then could Nigeria's oil riches be used for the common good to benefit the people?
Everything about the oil money is stolen. Everything you are seeing are make-believe infrastructures. And they will come to that overseas and tell you lies, false information. But in reality, most of the bourgeoisies, most of the business mogul are the people who are doing this business and creating abject poverty in our land. And that is where you will know that the individuals in Nigeria are richer. The communities and the government is poor. That is the reasons, because of corruption. Corruption in Nigeria is about 10 to 15 phases. That different corruption. The oil corruption is even the biggest. Where there is no oil refineries in Nigeria, there is no refinery working. They will now export this crude oil, go back to the shore, refine it, bring it back, and put it in quantum of volumes of naira, claiming that this is the amount we will buy. I think that is the highest corruption in the world.
And that's Chief Nengi James talking to us from the Niger Delta. Thank you, sir.